Lasagna is one of those things that I love to have in the freezer for those days when you just think, oh, I just want a plate of comfort food. So quite often I will cook a couple of really big lasagnas and then portion them up and freeze them. As I said, it's pouring with rain today, so I'm going to take my time and I've always called making lasagna a labour of love. I'm going to start with the ragu, then I'll make the sauce and then I'll put it all together. I don't ever weigh or measure anything for a ragu. I start by getting everything chopped, so I've got onion, carrot and celery. This one I'm going to make, so I've got enough that I could potentially make 2 lasagnas, or I can freeze the sauce. I'm actually using 1 kilo of meat, and I use a combination of, there's about 750 grams of beef and what's this? 500 grams. Okay, so I'm doing over 1 kilo, but I mix it with pork mince and beef mince. The other ingredient that you might be surprised to know that I do put in when I'm cooking is I put in a splash of milk. I also, this is one of my favourite tools in the kitchen. I don't think it's ever been used to slice a truffle, because who the hell can afford to buy truffles? I use it to slice garlic really, really thinly, and either just leave it thinly sliced or you can then chop it, but it is marvellous. Just show you how it works. So you've got your blade, you've got your garlic, and you just run it through and you can see it's beautiful. I'll just hold it up so you can see. Look how incredibly thin it is, and you can then chop it. So with the sauce, I'm starting off by very gently sauteing in a lot of olive oil the onion, carrot and celery. I also like to put in a knob of butter. So that's going to saute for about 10 minutes. I will stir in the garlic at the end, and then I will remove it with a slotted spoon and we'll start browning the meat. Sauteing, I'm going to salt and I'm going to add in my garlic. Let's talk about browning meat. You can't rush this bit. The heat is turned up under the pan, and you don't want to overcrowd the pan, especially with supermarket meat. It's going to be watery, and what you actually want are the burnt on bits on the bottom, because you're going to remove that at the end, and that's the lovely caramelised flavour. So take your time with this stage. That's why I pick a day like today where it's raining. I'm not in a rush, and actually embrace the fact that it's a pain in the arse cook. You see, this is sort of typical of supermarket meat. There's a lot of liquid in there, so at the moment it's almost stewing. You want to leave this for the liquid to evaporate, and then it will start frying and caramelising and going darker. That's why you can't rush it. Sorry to keep going on about it, but cooking, actually, as I'm doing this, it's making me think. It's all the senses. I can now hear that this is frying rather than stewing. I can smell that it's not burning, it's caramelising, it's nice and brown. So remove that little bit that you've cooked with a slotted spoon and put in the next lot. What I forgot to say was I also, at this point, once the meat's in, I will give it a little bit of salt. I won't use pepper yet because pepper burns cooking at a high heat, so the pepper will go in later. So this is what I want you to see. Don't be afraid of getting a really sort of baked on pan, because anyone that's sort of followed along or cooked along with me over the years knows that all of those flavours in there are some of my most favourite things in the world. So I've turned the heat up high. I've just tipped everything in. The heat is high, I can see the dark there. I'm going to pour on some red wine, and that's what's going to be used to deglaze the bottom of the pan and take off all that gorgeous flavour. So let's just... So that's like a large glass of wine. Actually, what I'm going to use, I'm going to let that bubble for a bit, and then I'm going to use my wooden... It's my favourite spatula for scraping the bottom, so I'm going to... That's quite hot. So now, using my spatula, I can scrape the bottom. It's all completely coming off. Washing up is going to be a doddle, and all of that flavour is going to go in. So I'm going to keep bubbling that down for a minute or so. Now it's time to start adding in all the flavourings. I've got some tomato paste. Again, I'm not measuring. I know how much meat there is. What's that, 3 tablespoons? That will get stirred through. Other things going in are, I'm going to put in some oregano. I'm going to put in some Tabasco, some dashes of Lee and Perrins. Okay, I'm just going to season everything, so oregano. You don't have to put Tabasco in, that's just me. I love some heat. I might even put in some chili flakes right at the end. Worcester sauce, because that really complements tomato. Obviously don't do it if you are cooking for someone with a fish allergy. I'm going to actually I want this I want this sauce to go quite far for economic reasons. So normally I wouldn't add chopped tomatoes to a beef ragu. But I am today because I want this sauce to go further when I make my lasagna. So I'm putting in a tin of tomatoes. I've got some stock. I'm just going to pour it into the tin just to rinse it out. So there's some chicken stock. Give it all a good stir. If it looks too dry, just add more stock. I am also going to add just a splash of milk. And then I will, it's a sleepy day for cooking. Once it's all stirred properly, I'm going to lower the heat right down. I will put a lid on, but just leave it open a little bit. And so I will cook it with the lid on for about half an hour, and then I will take the lid off and carry on cooking it for about another half an hour. So it's going to cook for about an hour. Making my bechamel on a low light. I've got just under a litre of milk. So to make a sauce with that much milk, I am melting approximately 60 grams of butter. So I will melt the butter. When the butter's melted, whatever the butter is, it's the same amount for flour. I can't find my clicker. So that's the melted butter. Flour's going in. I'm giving it a good stir. I want to cook off the flour before I start adding milk. Just let that cook off for a little bit. The other thing that I'm actually going to add at this stage is I like to add a little bit of mustard powder. So that's going in. Lovely. And then over a low heat, you can then start adding your milk, and you just keep stirring until it thickens. And here I am stirring it. So the consistency of my sauce, you can see it coats a spoon. There's a few little lumps in there, but I'm not going to be precious about it. I like to add one more ingredient at the end. I'm going to put in a couple of pinches of nutmeg. It seems to work really well with the meaty sauce. Assembly time. It seems a bit futile showing you how to put together a lasagna, but you might as well watch the finished article. So a layer of, it's not an enormous amount of sauce in each layer. So a layer of sauce, there's my a layer of the ragu, that's my white sauce. Oops, I'll just flip a bit on. A bit of white sauce. There we go. A little bit more. And then a layer of lasagna sheets. There we go. Oops. And then I will repeat until I get up towards the top. And here's so I've done 3 layers of pasta. I finished with a layer of meat and then the sauce. And I have got, we do 3 different cheeses. I'm assuming, I've always done it this way, and I'm guessing that when I first made this, I probably just had bits and pieces of cheese in the fridge. So decided to do using up of cheeses. So I've got some cheddar. I know that's not very Italian, but it's how we roll. So there's some cheddar gone on. I've got some mozzarella, a whole mozzarella here, which I will just tear into little tiny bits and dot all over the top. And then I will finish with, I've got some Parmesan, which will go over, nice and salty. This will then get baked at 150 degrees for about 50 minutes. Always better when made the day before. You don't want to eat it when it first comes out of the oven. It's just way too hot. And so it is a labour of love. You make it the day before, it's going to be so much better tomorrow. We might have some tomorrow, and then I will cut it up and freeze it ready for those winter night treats with a lovely salad or with some, I love coleslaw with my lasagna, but that is my mega 3 cheese lasagna, and it's taken me about 3 hours.